Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chicago. I think many of you heard from the mayor a couple days ago, and he talked about some of the initiatives that we have going on in Chicago. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about who I am and how I got here. And I may show you a few pictures too, if I can figure out how to use this thing. So again, my name is Gabe Klein. I spent the majority of my career in the private sector for about 15 years. And in Washington, D.C., where I had worked in the bicycle industry for the largest bicycle retailer in the United States, and with Zipcar for Robin Chase. I was very lucky to work with her in the very early days of Zipcar and helped to grow that company. And then with my own electric vehicle vending truck company called On the Fly, which aimed to bring healthy and organic foods to people on the street at a much lower cost than a traditional restaurant with electric trucks, which was very challenging and interesting and frustrating because I had to deal with the government at Zipcar and with my own food truck company, and found the government to be stodgy, sometimes sort of small-minded, anti-innovation. And so when some of my friends that I'd worked with when I was in the private sector that were in the public sector asked me if I would come run the DC Department of Transportation or be interested in it, and that was Dan Tangerlini, who now runs GSA, and Adrian Fenty, who's the mayor, and my friend Harriet Tregoning, who's somewhere out here in the audience, I think, who's the director of planning in DC. I actually sort of chuckled, and I thought they were kidding. Because I didn't even like government. So because it was such an interesting idea and challenge, and President Obama had just been elected, I said, okay, what the hell, let's do it. And came in and was completely ignorant of how government worked. And as I say quite often, that was the key to my success, because I didn't know all the things I wasn't supposed to do. And so I spent a couple years there. Unfortunately, Adrian lost the election because we made so much change so quickly in so many areas. And sometimes when you make that kind of change, you need change management to go along with it. And I often say that we're in the business really of change management more than transportation policy. But at any rate, I was going to leave and go back to the private sector, and I met Mayor Rahm Emanuel, or Mayor-to-be. And he had this incredible passion for public space and transportation and innovation in general. He was very much like my old boss. And said, hey, what do you think about coming to Chicago to do what you did in DC, but on a larger scale, and continue the work? And I said, well, that's sort of crazy. So yeah, let's do it. What the hell? So I've been here 30 months. I actually just announced that I'll be leaving at the end of the month because I think my mission for Rahm is relatively complete, but we have been able to do a tremendous amount of work. And so I'd like to talk briefly about some of the change that we're making. How many of you, so we're in the South Loop. We're about 3 blocks from Chinatown. How many people in the audience have been to Chinatown since you've been here? Okay, less than 10. So that's the problem. When you look at our land use patterns and some of the decisions we made in building out our transportation system in the middle of the last century, we made some big mistakes. We built freeways through our cities. We were supposed to be building this interstate highway system, but at some point we let it actually infringe on the cities. And we've done that here, and you've got the Stevenson that cuts right through here. You've got the 9094, which cuts right through over here, 2 blocks away. And you've got the elevated, which in its own way provides a barrier between neighborhoods. So you might not know it if you're here in the convention center, but just south a couple blocks, you've got Bronzeville, which is a historic black neighborhood. 3 blocks this way, as I said, you have Chinatown. You have Pilsen, which is one of the largest and most interesting Latino neighborhoods that I've ever seen. And then you've got Little Italy slightly to the north. So the thing is, you won't probably go there because of all the barriers that we've built. In 2008, when the real estate recession happened, the development that was happening in the South Loop suddenly halted. And you can walk outside and look and see where the tall skyscrapers stopped being built and the mixed use stopped. And when I moved here 2.5 years ago, there were almost no restaurants to service all the people that had moved into this area. Well, now the cranes are coming back and there's more buildings going up. And we are facilitating that with a new CTA station at 22nd and Cermak, with streetscaping on 23rd and 24th Street and Michigan Ave, with a new facade and gateway treatment up at the Roosevelt stop, with protected bike facilities on State Street and Wabash, just a few blocks away, and with new divvy stations that we've placed throughout the neighborhoods to link together this last and first mile. So government can help facilitate growth dramatically, or sometimes we follow behind the private sector, but this neighborhood is an excellent example of that. And I always say that we're the Department of Transportation and Public Space. We have, well, 23% of the land in Chicago is public space, and 70% of the total open space in Chicago. So we have control over that. That's a huge responsibility. It's not just about filling potholes and paving. It's about how do we make the city work for people and all the different modes. Another project I'd like to touch on that has an effect citywide is our Riverwalk. And if I can figure out, oh, before I get there, we put together a 2-year plan as soon as we got here with over 120 metrics that we committed to hit. That's one of my basic tenets, is that you have to set aggressive goals if you want to achieve goals. It's pretty simple management, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do it. When I first met with the mayor, after I came in, he said, well, what do you want to do? And I laid out over 100 things that I wanted to accomplish. And he said, Gabe, I thought we'd focus on maybe 2 or 3. And I said, well, the thing is, Mayor, if we focus on 2 or 3, I'm going to come back in here in 2 years, and we're going to go over the 1 or 2 that I accomplished. If we set 100, I'll probably accomplish 70. And sure enough, we've actually accomplished probably over 150, because we have a bunch of other plans also. This is the way the city used to be. It used to be really congested. Those freeways that I was talking about, they got rid of the congestion. How many people have been to Detroit lately? Okay. So it's not congested anymore. Congestion is a good thing. You want congestion. It's a matter of what type of congestion. Let me see if I can skip through to the Riverwalk. You get to see some interesting pictures on the way. So the Riverwalk was an idea. And there's 8 blocks on the Chicago River, and we had accomplished 2 in 2005, and there were 6 more. And my staff came to me. I apologize for all these pictures. My staff came to me, and they said, this is when we first came in, they said, we have this great vision for 6 more blocks of the Riverwalk, but it's going to cost us $1 million to make it happen, to do the first level of planning. And they said, would you be willing to commit $1 million to do this? And I immediately, after they showed me what they planned, I immediately said yes. And their sort of jaws fell open. And they said, really? And I said, yeah, why not? We spent a year working on the conceptual plans for it. That was in June of 2011. By August of 2012, we had those plans, and I put them in front of the mayor on an evening in Washington, D.C. He fell in love with them. The next morning, we were in front of the Secretary of Transportation pitching them for a TIFIA loan. They loved the idea because they had traditionally funded toll roads with this innovative loan structure. And 8 months later, we had the closing documents, and we were closing on the loan. And this morning, we awarded the contract, and we'll go to construction in 2 weeks. So in basically 30 months, in the mayor's first term, we went from conceiving of the idea to designing it, to lining up the funding, to doing all the outreach, to awarding the contract to going to construction, and it'll open during the mayor's first term in the spring of 2015. And this is a $100 million project. So the reason I'm pointing all of this out is that the average time to construct a transportation project in the United States is 13 years. That's about 80% too long. So, you know, people sort of, they always ask me, how do you get things done so quickly? Again, you have to set goals, you have to work for a great boss, and you have to focus like a laser on all the steps to getting this done. This will forever change Chicago. I'm going to show you some pictures. This is what we have now. Not very attractive. Nobody even knows it exists, actually. We're going to build 25 feet out. Each block has its own theme, and we're going to create place on each block with different themes around active transportation, around theater, open space, water taxis, and even the Chinese are interested in what we're doing. This is Mandarin Quarterly. And we just gave a tour to the Vice Minister of Transportation about this project. That's the last block, which will build out 50 feet, and it's really 2 blocks long, and will be an iconic view of the Chicago River. The Bloomingdale Trail is another mega project that's been on the books for 12 years. And when I came in with the mayor, we put together a $50 million financing package in about 90 days, and did the outreach, put the plans together, worked with the Park District and Trust for Public Lands. They're raising another $40 million. We went to construction 2 months ago, and this will be built in 12 months. It'll be the largest and longest elevated trail in the world. And we'll run through 4 neighborhoods that don't have a lot of open space, and will obviously affect the real estate values close to it. This project will be built again in the mayor's first term. There are lots of other things that we're doing. I think I have about 3 minutes left or 2 minutes left. We have the Chicago Streets for Cycling plan. The mayor had a vision when he came in of building a safe cycling facility within a half mile of every Chicagoan. We want people to be healthier and happier. We want social justice. We want people to be able to get around the city inexpensively. And we want to restore the links in transportation that went away with the streetcars 60 years ago. Cycling is a great way to do that. So what we found is that a lot of people want to ride, but they're scared. They don't feel safe. And so we have built facilities for people 8 years old to 80 years old to get around the city. And we've done it very quickly, as you can see here. This is what a protected bike lane looks like. You can walk over to State Street and see one a couple blocks away. We're taking incomplete streets and making them complete streets, and it's not that hard. And as soon as you build it, you can fill those lanes. As soon as you give bikers their own signals, they abide by those signals. And we're even testing technology so that people can change the signals with their bike or with their car. And we're filling those lanes. So it's not enough to just put the lanes in, but we're filling them with bike share bikes. And we just announced yesterday, actually the day before yesterday, I think, that we will be expanding the Divvy system to 475 stations. It'll be the largest in the United States. And it'll also be expanding to the suburbs. And bike sharing is all over the world. So with that, I'd just like to wrap up with, I guess, a summary of some of the lessons that I've learned in the public and private sector. The first, which I talked about early in our conversation here, is that congestion is not bad. This is a false premise. It's more a question of what kind of congestion do you want. Do you want hundreds of people on your street walking, biking, taking transit, and shopping and spending money? Or do you want them cutting through your neighborhoods at 40, 50 miles an hour? Which is obviously a land use issue too. We have to look to the past to know where to invest resources in the future and how we want to invest those resources. What was successful in 1920 and 1930? That might give you a great roadmap. Where was the streetcar? Maybe that's where you need to put your bus rapid transit system. 13 years to do a project as a standard is silly. I think the Riverwalk is a better example, and that's going to be 4 years. We shouldn't be so focused on keeping our job forever. We should focus on having impact while we're in our jobs. And Mayor Adrian Fenty, when he lost the election, we had our last cabinet meeting, he said, you know what, he said, I never said that I wanted to be here for 12 years. He said, I'd rather do 4 years, or I'd rather do 12 years worth of work in 4 years. And that's what I think we were able to do. Set aggressive public goals. And when I say public, I mean transparent and public so that you're embarrassed if you don't actually make them happen. And hit as many as possible. Work for an assertive boss who gives you leeway to create, and then do the same for your staff and don't micromanage them. Make your job to say yes and how. Come to me with a solution versus no. Make as many mistakes as possible in as little time as possible, and try not to repeat them if possible. Focus on profitability where possible for better quality projects and services. Government is way too focused on providing the service and not making money at the service. Divvy makes money. Because Divvy makes money, it's a better quality service that more people join because it works well, and therefore it makes more money. No change is easy. If it was easy, there'd be no satisfaction in making it happen. Thank you very much.